Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We're going to do a little partner stretching series for the day, something you can do at home. So first, we're going to start off with straight legs if we can. A lot of us can't even reach our partner, especially if you have a huge height difference, as for Nadine and myself. So what you can do is just bend those knees. You're going to reach out, grab each other's hands or wrists, preferably the wrists, and we're going to do a little bit of a push and pull. Make sure you're not pulling too hard. You're listening to the person on the other end that you're pulling and listening to their breath, listening to their cues. Maybe they want a little bit more of a stretch, a little less of a stretch, but you can do this with bent knees back and forth. If that is still too much, you can just kind of stagger those legs, move a little bit closer, then reach out and do that same thing. Really want to move my body weight and shift my body weight back, not just pull with my arms. So this is how it keeps my body relaxed and that tension equal to Nadine, and Nadine does the same thing. She shifts her body weight back as she pulls with the arms nice and long. And during this process, if I'm receiving the stretch like I am now, I'm focusing a lot on my breath. Inhale through the nose, good exhale, and as I exhale, I feel my body getting closer to the ground. And we're going to keep on working our way through that. You can spend as much or as little time as you need to get this stretch, but feel free to start rounding that back and feeling the stretch of the shoulders and the upper back. The next one is going to be working on opening up the chest and also freeing up the hips. So you get a little bit of a psoas stretch. We're going to go into a half kneeling position, almost like a lunge position. We're going to reach those arms back and interlock our fingers like as if you're holding somebody's hand, and then you want to keep those arms straight, and you both want to create even pressure. So I'm driving my front knee forward, so is Nadine, so I'm feeling a stretch in the psoas, the front side of the leg that is kneeling down, as well as the shoulder blades getting stretched. I'm opening up a lot of that pec. And we can just start moving the head around, kind of move that body around. You could even bring those arms a little bit side to side. You could do a little bit of a push and pull if you'd like to, but make sure you're communicating the entire time with the person you're doing this partner stretch with. After we get done with that hip and shoulder stretch, we're going to drop down and get back to back. We're going to do this to help stretch out our chest, our pecs as well. So one person is going to reach those arms up, so about 90 degrees. You're going to come over the top if you can. You can also come underneath, whatever works best for you guys. It feels very natural, and most importantly, remember, we want to be moving without pain. And from here, not only am I kind of rounding and pulling the arms down, but I'm trying to push my spine into her spine as I do this to help support the spine so we're not straining the actual spine. And then I am kind of trying to bring my arms like I'm trying to hug myself, as well as I'm bringing those shoulders down so we can get a good stretch. The entire time I'm talking to Nadine, making sure she feels all right, seeing if she wants a little bit more pressure, a little bit less pressure, and also keeping the thought of breath control in the mindset as we do this. You can also start rocking side to side to help kind of open up a little bit of those obliques and the QL. But this is all a lot about slow, controlled movement, easy movement, and we're trying to feel good when we get done doing these exercises. So feel free to add in a little bit of rotation, especially if you're with a significant other. You could also do a lot of stretches where one person's sitting on against the couch on the ground and the other person's kind of sitting in front of them, kind of like big spoon, little spoon. You can do a lot of exercises that way as well too, so feel free to explore a lot of this. And then obviously we're going the opposite direction. Nadine is about half the size of me, so she kind of slightly disappears as I'm just literally opening up my spine and my pecs, and it feels awesome. Picking that head up, focusing on that breath. And even though I'm the one who's receiving that stretch, Nadine is getting a stretch out of this as well too. Make sure that you're not, like if, for instance, I'm the one that's kind of pushing back on top of her, make sure that I'm not applying too much pressure too. So even though you are the one receiving the stretch, you still want to make sure that you're aware of how the other person feels. After we get done with that chest stretch, we're going to work our way through a tricep stretch. So we're going to bring those arms up. I'm going to grab onto our wrist. Nadine is going to try and tuck those elbows in close. I like putting almost our hands on the top of my head, and I'm going to do a crunch as I'm also going to pull my arms down so we can stretch out a lot of the lats and definitely those triceps that are really tight. And I'm just kind of curling that belly in, pulling my stomach to my spine, then slowly coming up out of that, leaving that stretch, and then I can go back into that, and you can do that as many times. I did like to take a little bit of a breather by doing some crab hip drives in between this. So what you will see is that we kind of step forward. This is a good thing to do to open up those chest and the abs too on this before we kind of switch that up. So I'm going to do a little bit of a slower, controlled crab hip drive. I'm trying to become a table pretty much, locking my elbows out, breathing, driving those hips up, and then scooting those legs through. Nadine's just going slowly through that motion at a little bit faster pace, which works too, but you'll notice that she's keeping the hips off, and then as she shifts those hips, they go behind the hands. The hips are still up off the ground. The legs are as straight as possible. If we can do that, great. If you can't, just do the best that you can. Same here. I'm extending those legs. The hips are going behind the hands, and the hips are elevated off the ground. Good. After we get a little bit of a stretch back in there, we're going to go into tricep stretch for me. So I'm going to reach those up. I'm going to squeeze my elbows in slightly right there. And then this one feels good. So Nadine's kind of working her way in a good position. And then she's going to round. I'm going to lean back and then feel that stretch all the way through my triceps, especially triceps and lats. Breathe through this. That's most important. I can't stress that enough. We don't want to be holding the breath. We don't want to be above 4 on our pain scale. If you have a slight discomfort, that's okay, but nothing that's going to make you wince, make you hold your breath, make you stop talking. So it's good to hear your breath. I'm a big fan of that. Big inhales through the nose, 5 to 8 seconds, and then big exhale through the mouth, making sure that you hear your breath while you're doing that. After we finish up with that tricep overhead stretch, we're going to go into a lat stretch. So as Nadine lays down on the ground, I'm just going to work my way over close to her armpit, and I'm going to kind of feel out where that armpit is. And we're going to go just slightly lower it and not deep into the armpit. So I'm kind of grabbing my fingers underneath the lat and the thumb, kind of slightly pushing into the lower part of the armpit where you're going to feel a muscle. You want to hold on to that. And then I'm just going to have her do some simple rotations, external rotation of that shoulder. That lat does like to get hung up, and it runs pretty much the entire length of her spine or of her back. So there's a lot of attachment points that can get kind of stuck, and we want to kind of unglue them. So different range of motion while we're tacking down or holding down that muscle will free up some of those adhesions. And play around with this. You could have her rotate, and you'll see I'll have her do some I's, some Y's, some T's. So she's keeping the elbow straight right now as she raises this arm slowly over the head. If we go fast, or the elbow the best that we can, keeping it straight. If we go too fast through this, then we're gonna just bend the elbow, and we're not gonna feel the spots where it gets sticky. Now she's going into these Y's, a slight elevation, just trying to see if there's anything holding her up, and then into the T's. Feel free to take more time than this as you need. You could also use your foot if you don't want to use your hand, and you notice I changed it up from squeezing the lat to just kind of pushing that down. As always, just listen to how they're feeling. Make sure you're not injuring or hurting them. And then after we get done with that supine lat stretch, we're going to work on a little bit of quad, hamstring, calf stretch here. So I'm kind of just slowly pushing that knee down towards the chest. I also have that foot resting directly on my chest. So I'm using my body weight to sink into her to get that stretch rather than my arms forcing it. It's a much safer way to do that stretch, to feel it out. The big thing that I'm asking her is seeing if she has any impingement that's happening in the hips. It's very common for a lot of people with anterior pelvic tilt, or we have a lateral tilt of the hips, some arthritis, bursitis, tons of things going on with all those muscles in the hips. So just be very careful on this. So here I am kind of just shifting my body weight as I push that in. And then also what we can do is I can kind of get her calf sitting on my shoulder with a little bit straighter leg, and we're going to attack a little bit more of that hamstring. She already has tight hamstrings, but the tight hamstrings doesn't mean that the hamstring needs to be lengthened. Usually what we're seeing when we have these tight hamstrings, it's the quad muscle that's actually really tight, that's not allowing that hamstring to extend anymore, which is something that we have to see in person and actually evaluate. It's not something that we can just talk about and just hope, but we could always try stretching it out and see how it feels. After we get done with that kind of stretch of more of a straight and a bent leg, we're going to do a little bit of a 90 rotation. You can see I think I'm about pushing down in the soft area between the shoulder and the pec, so I don't want to be hitting any bone, right in between there, kind of where like a backpack goes, a backpack strap. I just want to kind of sink that hand in there, rest my hands on the muscles of her legs while they're at 90 degrees from the torso, and I'm just applying my body weight into it. I'm not just forcing my hands into it. And you want to take this nice and slow. Apply very light pressure. And if you're applying very light pressure, you're going to get that feedback from the body that's going to tell you, no, I can't stretch anymore. That's when you want to stop. That's when you want to make sure that the communication with whoever you're stretching with is clear. After we get done with that one side, we're going to just go to that other side so you can kind of see it from another angle. Same thing. So I'm grabbing onto that lat. We're going to just do some external rotation of the shoulder to start. Then we'll go into those I's, Y's, and T's. Like I said, feel free to spend more time in this, especially on the things that are tight on the body. But having a partner there to help you stretch really helps making stretching and mobilization, flexibility, or whatever you want to call it, a lot more fun. And it usually can help assist knock out some of those knots and adhesions and scar tissue that we have built up. So definitely do this, jump in, grab a partner and try some of this stuff out, whether it's a gym partner, whether it's a significant other, a friend, doesn't really matter. And then here, same thing, I'm just kind of working that leg up. I am keeping that toe in dorsiflexion. And then you can see how I put it onto my chest. And then I'm going to kind of just support myself and shift my entire body weight. Notice how my entire body is moving forward. I'm not just pushing on that leg. This just creates a very safe and well-balanced movement and provides comfort not only for my body, but also for her body when she's moving. You can also do a little bit of a straight leg and kind of pick the leg up. I'm grabbing below the knee. You do not want to grab onto that knee. I'm kind of pulling that leg straight and also lifting it up a little bit. If you are going to do this, just make sure you are going very slow, a lot slower than I'm working with Nadine. I just have worked with Nadine before, so I kind of know her limit, because you don't want to just hyperextend that knee and cause any issues or damage to the body. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying with everything, just go slow with it and listen to what they have to say and give that feedback. Take their feedback exactly as it is. You're not feeling it. Don't tell them to suck it up. Don't tell them to push harder or stretch. It's supposed to be relaxing and enjoyable to free you up. And then once again, here's that 90-degree torso. So a lot of times, like, people drop the legs. You notice I kind of held Nadine's leg up there. So I'm kind of showing how we just apply a little bit of pressure, inhale, and I'm exhaling, and then I'm applying pressure. I'm stopping and applying pressure, and I'm inhaling, exhaling, applying more pressure. So I'm working that stretching along with my breath, try to line it up to her breath. Either way, give this a shot. Try it out. Let us know what you think. And add this into your weekly routine.